interview?
Yeah, come here. Hi. Fia. So, what do you like about art? My name is Kari Morgan. My Nisga'a name is Kalajak. I come from the House of Quiskine. I am a First Nation fine artist. I do mainly wood sculptures and paintings on many mediums, but mainly wood. I also do murals, and I like to also go and teach basic form line from many ages, from around kindergarten age to adults as well. I also have a whole family of artists too. So many carvers and painters and regalia makers and textile. Everyone does art. I am about 50% Nisga'a on my dad's side, and then on my mother's side, I'm German, French, English, and then in my Métis, Scottish and Sioux. And so my mother's maiden name is Anderson from her grandfather who came from Scotland. And so, yeah, it was interesting because, yeah, I do have that from my mother's maiden name all the way down from Scotland. We're part Scottish, very small. And then on my father's side, where I'm Nisga'a, and I'm doing a lot of our traditional arts, my great-great-grandfather, Uye, actually carved that totem pole that came back from Scotland. And he carved also a few other totem poles that are also still in a bunch of museums, including the one in Toronto. That's in the middle of the spiral staircase. And so it was really interesting to be there and like just see that coming back. And then I think a few more totem poles will probably eventually come back to us as well. It's nice to see them and nice to see like what the difference is between Uye's style and how we are doing it now. There's a lot of reasons for why it's so different, because we weren't supposed to still be doing our art. Our art specifically is also like our written language because we don't have one. We managed to hold on to it and pass the knowledge down as much as we could. So being able to see them in person and not having to go all the way to Scotland is actually a big reason why we love having that. Totem poles are not only representation of our art, of a story, of the person it's named after, the carver who carved it, the chief who bought it, but also a lot of people also see it as kind of like our brother. So there's a lot of heaviness and reason behind having the pole blessing ceremony and having it like done properly, then also having it erected properly, and you have a ceremony then too. So there's a lot of community and respect around these kind of things. So that's why we have them. I am carving a 8.5-foot sculpture totem pole out of red cedar that is going to be raised in Gitwinksihlkw in the Nass, one of the 4 villages there, right there at the bike trail for more people to come and see how beautiful the Nass is. This is the totem pole, and they are 3 lizards. So that's the bottom facing one, and then 2 more realistic lizards. And the reason that they're all lizards is because Gitwinksihlkw, it means people of the lizards. I had a lot of my chiefs and matriarchs come here to my house, and they told me that I am the first Nisga'a woman to ever have a pole blessing ceremony, and they kept repeating it to me, and I was very shocked and very honored. I kept trying not to cry. It's really meditative to do carving especially. It is taking something away to make something new and with something that was alive. And I do believe in muscle memory that's passed down. I honestly think that that's why my hands seem to know what to do with my sculptures so fast. Because my family, there's a long line of us that were carvers before me. When it comes to painting, it can also be, but it's more like energizing for me because it's more like I'm putting puzzle pieces together to create something new. So you're adding stuff together and it's energizing, whereas this one, as I said, like you're taking pieces of it away to create something out of it. And it has, yeah, the same kind of feeling as if I was sitting by the river with a nice fireplace right in front of me, like a little fire pit, and nice and relaxing. Also still has like the nice like firewood smell, right? Like, I have an idea of what I want it to be, but a lot of the time, because it was a living thing and the grain goes a certain direction, it will actually kind of guide me to what it wants to be instead, and you have to just go with it. And in the end, hopefully it kind of looks somewhat like what you wanted it to be, but you kind of have to go with the flow and go where the wood wants you to go. It's not always going to be exactly as you planned it to be with the wood. I prefer using things that are natural, like wood and stone and bone. There's so much that we take from the outdoors as inspiration. And for me to answer that is, it's difficult because like it's everything I see. It's not even just outside. It's not even just nature, but even specifically talking about traditional art and First Nations designs, if you think about it, you can see the way that our form line flows and it kind of moves into a certain direction. It's never a straight angle, and you can kind of see it in like the way the trees move, the way the leaf breaks, like branches off, the way that a slide comes down a mountain, a way that like certain flowers bud, and also a way that certain butterfly wings look as well. I think it's always been inspiration for the artwork. I was kind of taught that by Bill McLennan, who was one of the caretakers at MOA and would come and talk to us a lot about that kind of history, and he did a lot of research on it. Once he mentioned that, I started thinking about how all the other nations around like the world, including Maori, why theirs is different, because they have spirals and turns, and I'm wondering like maybe did they get that from their environment? How do they see that? Why do they see that differently? How was that inspiration different than our inspiration? Which is kind of an interesting thought. Art, nature, it's all one and the same. It's all needed, it's all necessary. That's why I live here. Okay, still a mess, but it's better. When I was in high school, I was fortunate enough to actually have a lot of teachers who really assisted me in my direction and my passions, and they even created a couple new art classes for me because I took all of them. When I graduated, I went and took university credit courses because I didn't know what kind of art I wanted to do and where I wanted to go to school exactly. I didn't really have a full direction. I took a bunch of courses that just made me learn more about the world, like ancient Asian studies, archaeology, anthropology, and art history. Did I say that? But Everything just made me want to travel more, which is another passion of mine. And so I started traveling. After that, I took myself out of college because the more I studied, the more I didn't want to be in school. So it was kind of a catch-22 situation. So I took myself out of school and went traveling the world. And I love like other societies, other art, and other traditions. And then eventually it got to a point where I decided that I needed to learn mine. It just kind of like really started making me feel like I really needed to know my own traditional art and my own culture at a deeper level. And so I actually signed up to go to Frida Diesing. They were some of the best years of my life. I'm glad I went at the age that I did. I went at 26, I believe. I think if I went sooner, I still kind of wouldn't have had a bit more of a mature mind yet. So I think it was a really good time for me to go. I tried to only do traditional artwork, and I tried really hard to stick to knowing the rules before breaking them. From the very first year, learning how to do our artwork in the traditional senses, where like Stan and Ken and Dempsey were teaching me the way to do form line and carving. Without me knowing, I ended up putting like my own artistic spin on it, not even aware that I was doing it until I read it in the newspaper, someone saying, oh, Kari's own like flair on it. I wasn't trying to. And it's just something that was coming out regardless of what I was making every time. It's something that's just like so part of me that I can't not have it come through my artwork. I really just wanted to stick to traditional, but still it always came out looking more like my version of traditional. I feel like I'm more connected in my art process in those moments when it just flows. You're not like pressed for time and you're not concerned about how it's going to look when it's done, and you're just enjoying the process. And I do feel like I'm a lot more connected to my culture when I do that kind of moment. Yeah, I am navigating through both tradition and more modern. I think they both have a lot of value. I think to completely like just discredit or move away from one is going to do us all a disservice. I think you can't really know where you're going without knowing who you were. And sure, there's a lot of barriers for some people in this country, especially to know what their past is, but they can still take steps to kind of learn it a little bit more. But I think it really is beneficial for people to know their history, where they come from. If we're really thinking about like making a societal change, it does actually play a big important part that we don't realize, where traditions can really help with it. With my most recent solo exhibition in Seattle, Post-Apocalyptic, where it was talking about where our artwork may evolve to if it was allowed to do the type of evolving that art does with time, when artwork wasn't allowed to be done for quite some time until 1956, and still people wasn't doing it publicly because first it was outlawed and some people managed to keep it going. If it was allowed to actually evolve, where would it go now? And so still had a little bit of like my own like internal turmoil about how much do I want to modernize it, but it was just something I really thought was interesting, and I still wanted to be respectful because we're in a weird stage here with our artwork where we're not really sure, because we're now allowed to do it again, but no one is the one person who can say like that's allowed, that's not allowed, besides the fact that this is our artwork. And so far I've noticed that if I do it in a respectful manner, people who are master carvers seem to really respond to it in a positive way. Even before my solo exhibition, and then interviews with the solo exhibition, interviews afterwards, I really enjoyed having that such a prominent thing where I could actually explain history to people that did not know that that was the history. Like, even a lot of my people don't know we were legally not allowed to do our artwork until 1956. We legally weren't allowed to live in a house with more than 10 people. Like, legally weren't allowed to do a lot of things, and so the fact that our artwork, for the most part, has still survived, and that's why it's called post-apocalyptic, is like such a good basis for me to explain that to people, and everyone always just is like a little bit surprised. With my artwork, I am hopeful that I can, you know, make people kind of get to know their past, like want to learn a little bit more about their own past, whether they come from a lot of my different pasts or something completely different. If they learn a little bit more about my people, and then they start to think a little bit differently, or they start having a little bit more inquisitive conversations about these kind of things. It's all positive, but I can't like expect everything. But you know, like, I do my artwork and people seem to receive it really well, and that's all I can hope with, like, either putting my artwork out there and doing interviews or having workshops with students. Then it's all beneficial. I think in the past I might have had a bit more hesitancy with artwork decaying outside. Since I was little, like, I wanted to do something that would like be everlasting, like long term, something that like made a mark. But everyone wants that, and like that's understandable. I think it's normal for everyone to feel that way. But then at the same time, when you asked me what does legacy mean to me, or what do I want my legacy to be, like nothing came to mind. But I am quite happy with how much ego I don't have involved in my artwork, which is nice. Like, I kind of think of me and my artwork and where I want to go. In the two minds, I don't know what if I'm really like holding on to having a legacy with art, and I'm fine with not feeling that way. Which is an odd answer, and I know that. I think now I'm more at terms, and I feel comfortable with knowing that, you know, that's just how the process works. Things will decay, things don't stay the same. My artwork I always want to sell or gift away because then I can make more. And I think that it's part of life and part of the rotation and how things just continue on. Even if it does change, it doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. It just means that that's just kind of how process of life changes. You know, the earth, your body, you moving. With that kind of thought process as I'm going along, realizing, oh, it's really not that bad. There's more stuff will happen, more experiences, more artwork. And then if you're spending so much energy on the past, then you won't have as much energy to put into the next thing. You can come up too. Come on. Up. There you go. Now it's your turn. So Spark, what do you like about art? Yeah?